Hello.
Hello, good evening. Yes, so today once again we all are present for a new session. I am with you and you all are with us. Good evening.
Evening.
So today what is the new thing we are going to shoot for?
We are going to talk about the method of learning English.
Is there any method?
That is very difficult for us to draw the conclusion about because in our country we see all of us have the desire to learn English. But how many of us are successful in learning English in the truest sense of the term?
But I am very
That is
much
the question.
curious to know just because it's a language, it's not a subject. Had it been a subject, then there can be some procedure, there can be some method. But it's a language can be followed by any method.
That's my question too. Here the question of paramount importance is it possible for us to learn a foreign language through our mother tongue?
There is a $64,000 question for me.
Yeah. Say, for example, my mother tongue is Bengali. Now, when I'm beginning to learn English, should I learn English through Bengali or I should learn English through English?
We learn from our mother tongue, but the purpose of learning exact English, I don't think so we will get the sense of the English.
Now, there is a particular method that is the functional communicative method. Now, functional communicative method says that when you want to learn some language, you have to learn that language through that language only. It is not that through your mother tongue you will learn some other language. Perhaps it is possible for you to learn some other language through your mother tongue to a certain extent, so far as writing is concerned. But when it comes to speaking, it's always very important for you to be in the right environment. Without the environment, it is quite difficult for you. It is out of the question for you to learn the language.
But for a green, how it's possible?
Yeah, now this is possible. First, I must tell you that if you are a little kid, if you are a child, you are beginning to talk. If you are lucky enough, you will have the right environment where your ears are habituated to listening to English. That is the exposure. If you get the proper exposure matters a lot. If you get the proper exposure to English, perhaps it will be possible for you to pick up English words from your environment. And if you are a grown-up one, you are now learning this language as your second language. It is very important for you to take the help of your mother tongue because you have already learned everything in your mother tongue. Now, if you want to learn a foreign language, you need to take help of your mother tongue so that you understand that language or the things in the foreign language better. This is my conception. This is my idea, at least. What do
You
you
hit the
say?
nail on the head, but the fact is that the encouragement at the very beginning, the children, they do not get. It may not be for the grown-up. Grown-ups are quite mature enough. Grown-ups are quite sensible enough, so they can understand whether they get the encouragement or not. That doesn't affect that much. But the fact is that for the children,
Well, I have attended a Bengali medium school all through my life, up to class 12, up to standard 12. Now, I have learned English simultaneously as a second language. English was not my first language at the school level, so I learned Bengali, and along with Bengali, I learned English. Therefore, it was, of course, very much possible for me to learn the names of different things in English through my mother tongue. Say I asked my teacher, showing a particular object, I asked my teacher, sir, what is it called in English? My teacher helped me with the appropriate word, and I had to commit to memory that word. So what I did initially when I was beginning to learn English, I started memorizing a lot of English words. I tried my best to improve my vocabulary first. Then my grasp of grammar, English grammar, was very, very weak indeed. It was not that I knew grammar, but I knew one thing, that if I did not know words, then it was impossible for me to speak a certain language. Therefore, I started collecting English words from different sources. I was a student of a school long ago, so it is not that then there was no internet, there was no TV even. There was the use of the radio only, and we used to read English newspapers. But reading the English newspapers at the initial stage, I failed to understand what the news stories meant. So I used to sit with the English newspaper and the dictionary, English to Bengali dictionary, not English to English dictionary. Whenever I came across a quite uncommon word, I noted that down in my notebook and I consulted the dictionary to know the exact meaning of that word. This way, I started improving my vocabulary. After a certain length of time, I saw that I had a sizable vocabulary. A very, just a handsome vocabulary. I had a lot of words in my repertoire. And then I started putting those words together in order to frame a sentence. But I knew that grammatically those sentences were incorrect. So sometimes I was ridiculed also by the people who knew English. But I did not give up. I continued that way. And then I felt the need of the English grammar. And then I bought some English grammar books and I started reading those English grammar books. Started learning the rules of the grammar, and then according to the rules of the grammar I started framing sentences. This way I have learned.
But there are many people, those who...
You are in fact from south.
That's right.
So what is your mother tongue?
My mother tongue is Telugu.
Telugu. So how have you learned English?
I also to some extent they followed the same method the way you have followed. Just I have come to know from you. But my initially also exactly the same procedure the way just you have mentioned about your own self.
Why did you begin to learn this language at all?
Just because the language I felt it is a very interesting and as well as it is very much required as a second language. I felt that only knowing my own mother tongue is not enough for me. So for that reason I thought that surrounding me the languages which are possible for me to listen, it's quite possible for me to learn listening to the languages, not only the languages. So I felt that no, this is not only the language which one I need to grab it. So for that reason I also deep into this particular language, and I also started following certain procedure as like as the word collection. After that, second thing is that communicating with the people. When I started communicating with the people, I felt that number of problems. The main problem is that adjustment. Just because whenever we communicate in our own mother tongue, we can communicate very freely. But whenever I started continuing or communicating with the person or with the people, I felt that the word at the right point in time, if we do not appear in the name of a sentence, so it is not possible for me to make him or her understand what I want to mean exactly. So
but you know, Kushal, these days it has become a lot easier for the students to learn English than it was during our times, because in those days we hardly ever had the chance to listen to English. So we had to read a lot of English books and newspapers, and there was hardly any English program on the radio. And on All India Radio there were some programs, but there it was very difficult for us to understand. Afterwards, after the advent of the television, I started watching TV, but in fact in those days not many channels were there, so English programs are very rare. So what I used to do, I myself, I understood at a particular point in time that without listening to English, if you learn English, your knowledge will be incomplete. Because when you talk to the foreigners, when you talk to Americans, or when you talk to the English people, you will fail to understand what they say.
That's
And
right.
if you fail to understand what they say or what they're asking you, what's the value of this knowledge? You cannot answer the question properly.
No.
So what I used to do, I used to go to Kolkata, especially to the Park Street area, and there I used to loiter, waiting for a white-skinned person. Whenever I happened to see a white-skinned person, I didn't know whether he was an Englishman or whether he was a Frenchman. I knew nothing. I simply went there and I just begged to a certain extent. I started like, excuse me. He was a little puzzled. What is this guy trying to do? He thought I was trying to play some naughty trick or prank. So he stood and he told that, yes, please, I'm interested in knowing whether you are from England or from America. Then he said that, no, I'm from say some country. I'm from France or I'm from Portugal. Then I just simply excused myself away from that because I understood that it was useless for me to talk to him because his English was not up to scratch. This way, once or twice, I just asked a guy which country he was from. Then he told me that he was from America or he was from England. And I was absolutely overjoyed. And I told him, excuse me, please give me a few minutes. They felt much irritated sometimes. I understood that the guy was very much bugged, and I simply insisted. He stopped by the roadside and talked to me a little bit. Say, hardly he talked to me for 5 minutes. And then when he saw that I was interested in English, his mother tongue, then he was a little more interested. Sometimes he continued to talk to me. If he was not very busy, he continued to talk to me for 7-8 minutes. And that was enough for me. I used to come back home after that. But these days, when the students want to listen to English, there are a lot of opportunities out there. On YouTube, there are a lot of English videos. So those videos are made directly by the English-speaking people, like Americans or British people or Australians. So they can listen to English, and this way they get the exposure. But in our times, there was no exposure at all. Absolutely zero. Sometimes I used to talk to some Indians who would speak English, but their pronunciation was very flat indeed. So I couldn't learn pronunciation from them. So this was the story of my learning English. Nowadays, sometimes I think whether the students really make the best use of the opportunities available to them. That's my question. What do you feel? You deal with a lot of students. You have your private students. So do you think that the students really make use of the resources they have?
No, in this case, I felt while I deal my learner friends, so at that particular point in time, I felt that those who are vigorous interest, we need not to work for them just because they always wait for the options, what options are provided towards them from a person. So like that, the interesting people always will be ready to get the thing. But at present, we see that number of options are there. As we know very well that whenever we get number of options, we will be ready to pick and choose. Whenever there is no option, if there is only one option, so whether it is towards us suitable, whether it is towards us not suitable, that doesn't matter. We go on with the thing. So now at present, what I felt that whenever there are number of options through the digital media, so for that reason we are not that much gung-ho about the fact that to know. It is my personal opinion that whenever a person is going to see a lot of videos, lot of things he or she is going to get, that doesn't enough. Just because that initially can give the theoretical factors, but the main factor is the practical. Until unless a person is going to utilize himself or herself in the practical ground, he or she cannot understand what exactly he or she needs to do.
Okay, so we have talked for quite a long time now about the method of learning English, especially to make this video useful to the beginners. So, my dear viewers, if you are interested in learning English and if you are a beginner, I shall advise you to listen to English as often as possible, and I will, of course, I will ask you, I will request you to collect a lot of words. When your vocabulary is very strong, gradually then you can learn grammar. And after you have learned grammar and you have already had a sound vocabulary, you will see it will become a lot easier for you to speak English or to write English. Thank you very much. Pusha, have you anything to say about
We
it?
should
Yes, please.
not forget to tell our educated viewers that before going to sign off, you should not forget give the like,
Oh, really? Exactly.
comment, and definitely this one you have to do, that share the session with your near and dear one.
Yes. So see you again in the next session, my dear friends. He has already told you to give us your comments, your valuable comments, precious comments. We actually wait for your comments. You know, when you see that you have passed a comment, we are very much happy to see that, yes, your comment is often helping us to make these video sessions better. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
See you again in the next
See you.
session. Bye-bye.